Looks like the gang's all here. What's there to be scared of?
A person should have his roots deep in a great moving current, a moving stream of conscious direction, which will keep him on course, sailing steadily toward the destination he's chosen, regardless of the economic and social winds that blow first this way and then that on the surface. In such a life, there's no great hurry, no frantic running about, no doubt or confusion. Instead, each day he moves a little way along his course, steadily, unrelentingly. And above all, he has the wonderful, calm knowledge of his destination and knows that each day finds him closing the distance that still separates him from it. Sometimes in his life, as in all lives, there are storms which tend to throw him off course, and obstacles which for a time may delay him. But soon, he's right back on course again, moving ahead. His roots are firmly held by the steady stream of his belief. This is the life of the strong, serene person, the person of wisdom, the person who knows that he cannot do or become everything in his lifetime, so calmly chooses that which he desires, pushing everything else from his mind, and begins his life's journey. Until in a very few years, he's miles ahead of all but the few who live as he does.
Our attitude is something we can control. It is then our attitude toward life which determines life's attitude toward us, cause and effect. You and I are responsible for our lives. You and I produce causes all day long, every day of our lives. The environment can only return to us a corresponding effect. We get back what we put out. Attitude is the reflection of the person inside. I know the world will give me back what I put out in the way of attitude. So it's up to me. I'm responsible. A person with a poor attitude becomes a magnet for unpleasant experiences. When those experiences come, as they must because of his attitude, they tend to reinforce his poor attitude, thereby bringing more problems and so on. The person becomes an example of self-generating, doom-fulfilling prophecy. There are millions of human beings living narrow, darkened, frustrated lives, living defensively simply because they take a defensive, doubtful attitude toward themselves, and as a result, toward life in general. Wherever you find a person doing an outstanding job and getting outstanding results, you'll find a person with a good attitude. These people take the attitude toward themselves that they can accomplish what they set out to accomplish. They take the attitude that achievement is the natural order of things, and it is. They have a healthy attitude toward themselves and as a result toward life and the things they want to accomplish. They have goals. They have a burning desire to succeed despite all handicaps. They know exactly what they want. They think about it every day of their lives. It gets them up in the morning and it keeps them giving their very best all day long. It's the last thing they...
Alright, good morning, folks. Back again, Silver Bullet Hour. So I'm looking to go on this SIBI up here, targeting these lows. A little bit harder to read this morning's price action. for a number of reasons I won't get into, but at least for me, it doesn't feel as smooth as yesterday. So if I get the opportunity, I'll go short in here and using this as a bearish breaker also to support the idea. I'm not necessarily targeting these lows, but I'd like to see them taken. And of course, you want to see a higher dollar, so I'm always going to be short on ES for the next few days at least, especially seeing this sort of price action, buy stops taken up here. And then now we have this short-term swing low taken, so this becomes a shift in market structure like we've talked about just like yesterday, while leaving a fair value gap in here. There's two of them, but in a situation like this, you'd want to use the first one. Sometimes you can get away using the second one, and then they'll trade lower immediately. But oftentimes, I always like using the first one. That way I have a smaller entry. So we'll drop down to the 1 minute and see what we can do. See if we even get the opportunity to get an entry. Let me see if I were to enter here. 5 handles. This is my stop. So my stop would be up here. Okay. So 41.35 even. All right. Now we essentially just wait. There's not much to do in a situation like today. Just have to wait.
Think about before dropping off to sleep at night. They have a vision of exactly what they want to do, and that vision carries them over every obstacle. It's been said that what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. As to luck, forget it. Luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity, and opportunity is there all the time. It's our attitude at the beginning of a difficult task which, more than anything else, will bring about its successful outcome. That, my friend, makes the difference. The secret of happiness is freedom, and the secret of freedom, courage. What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. We become what we think about. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I woke and saw that life was duty. I acted, and behold, duty was joy. We are at our very best, and we are happiest when we are fully engaged in work we enjoy on the journey toward the goal we've established for ourselves.
Yeah, good evening.
What's all this racket you're doing? It's the middle of the night.
Here I am stuck in this tiny cell all day and night with nothing to do, so I'm working out.
Huh?
Now, if you don't mind, I've got some training to do.
Huh?
Now that's enough of my time that you've wasted. Now out, out, out! Yeah. If I stop these exercises to harden my body, it starts to become weaker.
The more intensely we feel about a goal, the more assuredly the idea buried deep in our subconscious will direct us along the path to its fulfillment. But whatever our goal happens to be, if we stay with it, if we're fully committed to it, we'll reach it. That's the way it works. Most seem to just drift along, taking circumstances as they come, and perhaps hoping from time to time that things will get better. If If anyone can succeed and millions do, so can you. Of one thing you may be sure, you will become what you think about. If your thinking is circular and chaotic, your life will reflect that chaos. But if your thinking is orderly and clear, if you have a goal that's important for you to reach, then reach it. You will. If you want to develop the muscles of your body, you take daily exercise of some sort. The mind is developed in the same way. The mind of man can lift anything. You see, you are at this moment the living embodiment of the sum total of your thoughts to this point in your life. You can be nothing else. Each one of us is in charge of his or her own life. Each one of us is completely responsible. The only thing in the world that can take you to your goals in life is your mind.
Stay down, wait for the doctor to arrive.
You can measure opportunity with the same yardstick that measures the risk involved. They go together. Adversity introduces a person to himself. Now that's when we get to really know ourselves. That's when we come face to face with the real person we are and the stage of our maturity or growth to that point. Touch a thistle timidly and it pricks you. Grasp it boldly and its spines crumble. All problems become smaller if you don't dodge them but confront them. It's good to get rid of that word security once and for all. A man on his own must think. He must devote more of his days to thinking. I'm talking about the man of action who gets out and raises the dust in the world. The man who risks all of his time on a goal he wants to reach, on a dream in his heart.
Folks. Slow price action right now. Everyone to see that, especially within the 10 to 11 time frame. But I don't mind seeing a little bit of consolidation. Kind of a range-bound movement on the hourly. But I wouldn't really want to see it keep going like this for the rest of the time. It's like it wants to poke its head up there, but at the same time it doesn't. So even once it gets to this fair value gap, should you even go short in there? Because if it's been doing this all the way down here, expecting a big reaction from this might not be logical. So I'm waiting to see how it trades in there. If it wicks and then it shows me some movement, then sure. But as of right now, though, especially looking at the other markets, and Q is definitely not aiming for sell side right now. It's staying in this small range within this fair value gap as well. And of course, the Dow. The Dow is playing fair. I like that. I'd ideally want to see NQ doing the same. Okay, so he just did that. It's one of those moment of truth. How does it react from here? You don't want to be going short just because of the fair value gap. But that'll essentially be gambling right there. That's one thing I'm not trying to do. Way too much around the breaker. So this candle itself, it can't close above this fair value cap. For the idea to be still valid, this has to wick and head lower. The body has to close within this fair value cap. If it closes above it, yeah. Look at how much energy it has. Throughout all this chop, it barely wanted to move, but once it gets in here though, it has all the energy in the world. Probably aiming for the high of this candle, which for some people that might be their stop if they're using this fair value gap as an entry. Yeah. Not good. Let's see. Now I'm watching to see if this old fair value gap is used as support to head higher. Head higher where? Maybe buy side up here, but that's not something I even had in my radar. So even though it's likely it can go up from here, I don't really feel confident or comfortable even to go along in this. So it's one of those. We'll watch it. Make sure we watch it. So I'm gonna keep recording. That way you guys can see what I go through, like when I use my mental Rolodex and using every tool in my arsenal to be able to decipher whether or not a trade is a good trade or not. You know, it's not as clear as having a model. You could have had a breaker model, but it would have failed right here. It would have definitely failed. So it's a lot that goes into, I suppose, reading price, but I'm very curious to see what this does. So put on something else to listen to, and then we'll keep watching.
A ship would never leave a harbor if it did not have a destination. If you were to climb to the navigation bridge and ask the captain the name and location of his next port of call, he would tell you immediately. There's not the slightest doubt in his mind. Can you tell anyone your destination just as quickly and in one sentence? The captain of the ship knows that he can arrive at only one port at a time. He knows that it's impossible to arrive at two. Do you know that? He also knows that his destination will be invisible for fully 99% of his voyage, but he knows it's there and that he'll reach it if he will just keep doing certain things a certain way every day. One fine morning, his destination will appear on the horizon. He'll sail into port, his voyage successfully completed. When his business has been accomplished, he'll then sail to another predetermined port of call, and this will take him and his ship from one success to another for the rest of both of their lives. By understanding that he can reach only one port at a time, the owner of a ship can, in the short space of a very few years, reach hundreds of ports successfully. There'll be problems, lots of them, but they'll be solved, and the ship will steam its solitary course over the deep oceans of the world, devoting its life to accomplishing its mission. Men and women who follow this sensible, obvious, and meaningful way of life will do the same. But the paradox is that most are like ships without rudders. They're subject to the whims of wind and tide. And while they hope they'll one day arrive in a rich and bustling port, you and I know that for every narrow harbor entrance, there's 1,000 miles of treacherous and rocky coastline. The chances of their just drifting into port are 1,000 to 1 against them. These are the unfortunate people who, not knowing the rules, believe that circumstance controls our lives. They believe in luck and superstition, fate. They believe that success comes as the result of who you know, not what you know. And while they cling to their false alibis, life passes them by. For the rules of life are just, and they are checkmated, without haste, but without remorse. Now what about you? Remembering that the definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, what's the ideal toward which you are working now, today, yesterday, and tomorrow? Can you write it in one sentence? Is your goal sharply and clearly defined? If you can tell me what you want, I can tell you how to get it. You see, the trick is not in achieving our goals, it is in establishing them. You are at this moment the sum total of your thoughts to this point, for there is nothing else you can be. Succeeding in life has always been a matter of doing that which the great majority does not do. That's just the way it is, and if we don't recognize it, it will be to our cost. To amount to anything as individuals, we've got to be individuals. We've got to have individual goals, individual thinking, individual action. We must never conform to the great mass of people. We must love them, help them, for our joy and success will be determined by the extent to which we serve them. But we must never lose our individuality and identity by permitting ourselves to be submerged in this suffocating sea of indirection and purposelessness. There's nothing wrong with emulation. In fact, it's a good idea. So long as we emulate a person who represents that which we wish to become, but never the crowd, never the 95%. Do you know what the answer was, the secret to achievement that I had devoted nearly 20 years to finding? Its pure simplicity had caused it to elude me. I had been looking for something complicated, something only a mind prepared by years of study could grasp, and I found the answer so simple a child can understand it. In 6 words, we are what we think about. Our minds, our thinking controls our destinies here on earth to a degree totally unsuspected by the great majority of people. If we become what we think about, and if we can control our minds, we can pretty well tell our own future. And that's the point I want to make. Each one of us is the architect of the structure fashioned by our years. This means that if we're confused about what we wish to become or accomplish, our lives, our environment will mirror that confusion.
All right. Yeah. So we are seeing a little bit of upside from this inversion fair value gap, but nothing else I'm interested in. I'm not interested in going long in this market for the foreseeable future. So that'll be it today, folks. Not as exciting as yesterday, but this is what trading is like, really. Have to be able to go through days like this without getting hurt, and then to be able to enjoy the days where everything's good, so you can enjoy the upside and minimize the downside. I could have taken a short and got stopped out. That's happened before, but on a day like this, if you can avoid it. That's good. You know, it's way better than taking the loss. So understanding how to read price and being patient, it certainly pays. Now looking at NQ, it's not something you want to be a part of, man. I had this around here. I was looking at it, but I missed this initial entry, and I wasn't gonna enter on this volume imbalance. The Dow, I don't trade the Dow. So nothing exciting for today. Just another day with, nonsense price action. And I certainly hope you guys learn a thing or two. For me, that's why I will still pay attention to these markets. Even if I know I can't find a good trade, I'll still look and actually study to see what happens. So never stop learning. That's where all the growth happens. Certainly hope you guys learn a thing or two from this, and hope you find this video insightful. With all that being said, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.